Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PureJoy Podcast. This is a bi-weekly exploration into what brings people joy. This is episode 3. The first 2 episodes we talked about craft beer and in general, playing video games, watching a movie, experiencing media as media is in order to escape, your daily life. Today, on episode 3, we will be talking about something kind of along those lines. My guest today is my longtime friend, Gabe Stringer. Hello, Gabe.
Hey, Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
Good to be here, indeed. I always look forward to these each week. Just a fun little time to talk and converse with people. And being that
it must be a good time to pick the brain of people who are also in this same sort of internet stream space.
It is very interesting. My hope and goal, for longevity of the podcast, would be to just open that up, right? Not necessarily about the stream space, not necessarily about the sphere here in terms of my guests, but just about everyone's joy, right?
Certainly.
So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to that, but it is great to have you. How are you doing today?
Been good. What have I been doing? I really have almost no idea what happened yesterday. Today has been nice though. I've been relaxing. I watched a couple episodes of the crime documentary about O.J. Simpson. That was fun. Fun is not the word, actually. It was
a good watch.
It was a good watch.
Yeah.
It was well covered.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be. You're not having fun with the material.
I had complicated feelings while watching it, and that is sort of the criteria that you want when you are watching something, is that you want to have feelings about it, and then if they are complicated, then you inspect them and you see what's up.
To work through.
So that was fun, and I'm gonna Kayla and I got out some of my Cook's Country magazines, and we poked through one of the June-July issues and picked out a few recipes. So we're gonna make shrimp and green bean stir fry tonight after the stream.
I like that shrimp and green bean stir fry. I think all I've had today really is like a sandwich.
I've mostly been drinking alcohol, but I have recently switched to coffee.
Yeah, that's nice. That's good. I like to start all of these episodes off by asking my guests for a small joy, something that has brought you joy today, like a daily, something that's brought you joy today.
Is it okay if it's a thing that is it's the same thing that brought me joy yesterday, but it also brought me joy today? I sent you a song yesterday. Have you listened to it?
No, I have not. I have not listened to it yet.
Yeah, you should give that a listen, because that song is my joy of yesterday and today. It's a Chicago artist that I don't remember the name of off the top of my head, but it was part of my Chicago news podcasts. I was playing my news while I was doing the dishes yesterday, and they were talking about Chicago artists because they were interviewing some producers for a label based in Chicago, I believe. And this was one of the artists that came on, and they played a snippet of this song, and I was just grooving to this 35 seconds of song on this podcast. And I was like, all right, stop this podcast. We must find this. We must find this song, and we must listen to it 3 times in a row, and we must send it to everyone whose taste in music we respect.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I sent that to the chat just now if anyone is around and wants to give that song a listen. It is Standing in the Doorway by Alicia Walter. Is that's the one, I assume?
That is the one. It is an absolute blast. It's so much fun. It's got Jackson 5 vibes, but it's just a groove. It's such a groove.
Okay, yeah. Well, then I will make sure that I do give that a listen, and everyone else make sure that you give it a listen as well, because it sounds like a bop. I think that
it's dancing in the kitchen music, if that resonates with anybody.
Like cooking a meal, taking care of the dishes.
Cooking a meal, or just sort of late night kitchen hangs
is a good place for it.
If you've got the kitchen for it, kitchen hangs
Need
are
definitely
sublime.
a big enough kitchen to be able to sit on the floor at some point during the kitchen hang.
Sit on the floor or like a separate area where you can like sit on the countertop and not be like by cupboards.
Yeah.
Like when in our college house we had the washer and dryer also in the kitchen, so those were great for sitting on.
That's true. And the sturdy enough kitchen table or like big dining room table in there.
Oh yeah. That dining room table was solid.
You gotta have an island in your house, folks, to sit on. It's always it's a must have.
Certainly.
Well then, fantastic. I think that piggybacks off of what.
Wait. You asked me what's your small joy of the day? Yeah, don't you
No one.
Don't you escape from this?
No one's asked. My small joy is that I played Pokemon Coliseum, and one of my biggest gripes with Pokemon is that as I've grown up, Pokemon has not grown up. It is.
Oh, it's not dark enough for you.
Well, it's not that there's no weighty consequences to any action in the game. You just do the thing that they have told you to do, and that's it. And
it's very scripted.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I love the games it's probably the game I've played the most, on stream and online, but I still my big gripe is that it doesn't grow up with me. However, going back and playing Pokemon Coliseum, I see that they attempted to make it grow up, and I'm not sure what happened and why that hasn't continued. It just was a fun time. Like, there were people being kidnapped. I found a tray-side table of only alcohol bottles and for sure a glass of poured whiskey. It just was like adult.
Hell yeah! Way to go, Nintendo!
World. And like people, I don't know. They're speaking in a more adult way. They're like a little bit darker. It's definitely still for like. It's more for like older teenagers now, I would say. You know what I mean? Which is fine with me.
But I'm still here for that though. Like a post-apocalypse Pokemon game. That's fun. Did you? I know the one time that we tried it on my laptop, we didn't have a way to speed it up in any sort of satisfying way.
That was draining my joy just a little bit, but it's still a fun time.
Yeah, that's good. That's why I was like really interested in it when we started it, but man,
I didn't actually
it's so slow
in my settings to see if there was a way for me to speed it up, but it didn't seem like it. And it's slow, but I'm finding joy in filling the space there.
I mean, if you can keep up a commentary on what all's happening, then the speed does not matter whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, it was.
Man,
it is very slow, but it's a little bit older. It's a little bit darker. It's all about like kidnapping people's Pokemon and taking their whatever Pokemon they have. It's really neat. It's interesting. And I was kind of taken aback by its slightly older age market, like age target market.
Now, when did that one come
Early
out?
2000s, like 2003 or 4 or something like that. Fun little note about buying Pokemon games is if you want a copy of Pokemon Coliseum or Pokemon Gale of Darkness, they are among the 2 most expensive Pokemon games that you could attempt to buy. Gale of Darkness being probably up there. It's like almost $300 for a copy of Gale of Darkness.
This I did know. I remember hunting around in a half price for these games, and even going so far as to like ask the half price people what if like I could just order it and have it shipped, and they were like, "Well, Gale of Darkness. We have Gale of Darkness for $247 or something."
And that is just the price of it, if you find it in a cool place like that, generally the price is even higher because you're like, buying it from a personal dealer. But very interesting. So I'm excited to play the games for free, online. Now that I haven't escaped it, all of your small joy at least seemingly piggybacks off of what your joy is. So what brings you joy?
Well, my experience with joy is most often stimulated by experiencing media with other people, whether that is sharing the media with them or the both of us experiencing it together. I I think that is when I look back on my life and I'm like, all right, where is the joy? Where is the moments? Because I even looked up joy just to be like, all right, what am I looking for? What's this about?
This question I'm answering?
Yeah, is the emotion of great delight or happiness caused by something exceptionally good or satisfying. And to me, that feels like the moments that I look back and I'm like, that great delight from something exceptionally good or satisfying are the moments where I am being shown something, or I am experiencing something together with another person, or I am ushering somebody into a new experience.
Yeah, that always brings.
Yeah, so that's what brings me joy.
Yeah, I mean, the sharing of an experience, especially one that you have. I mean, there's two different like sets of joy in that, right? There's like experiencing something new for the first time together, like going to see the brand new movie that has just come out together, and being able to experience that in that form, or like, you know, you and our roommate watching Tokyo Revengers, experiencing that for the first time together and going through like the big roller coaster of emotions. And I was experiencing joy during that from a secondary point of view, because I was definitely more enjoying your guys' enjoyment of this show than I was, because I wasn't keeping up with the show. I was like playing games on my computer and taking care of.
That's because the show fucking traumatized
It's very dark for what I did see.
In the first like 8 episodes, the last time that we had watched it, it was very good at manipulating our emotions. And so by the time we stopped watching, we were like mildly afraid of what this show was going to do with us, because we had to finish it, but we knew it was going to hurt us along the way, and that was part of the excitement. But yeah, you've definitely hit on like two of the big pillars of getting joy out of experiencing media is the experience together, and that can be either silently, like in a movie theater, but even in a movie theater, you know, you
there's
sort
a
of
building of excitement from next to you, or
there's
like
a building of excitement. You might even like, depending on the movie and the vibe that the movie has created, you might even have like a whispered commentary to the person next to you. Which is sort of why I put it in the same camp as like Lawrence and I watching Tokyo Revengers. But then the other pillar that you identified is the joy that you got. I would classify that as like the second pillar of experiencing media. That's the joy that you get when you show someone something.
True.
Is you're less watching the media and you're more like, I know this, I know where the bits are, and so I'm gonna keep an eye on you. And I'm going to try not to give the game away, and I'm a little bad at giving the game away. But I want to watch you, and I want to see you experience this, and I want to hear the things that you have to say about having this experience.
Yeah, right? Because it takes like a...
And I want to compare and contrast that with the experience that I had and the experience that I have had consuming this media and media like it, and sort of diversify my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it takes an enjoyment of a piece of media in some form or fashion, be that, I mean, because it can be because this media was so bad that I have to show it to other people, just like, you know, the general society's take of the movie The Room. Like, it's so bad that it's good, and so, like, people showed their friends, like, I want to show you this because it's so bad that it's good. I struggle finding examples like that because we generally show each other like very, very strong pieces of media.
I think there's a few examples of things that we watch that have been like either so bad that they're good or that are clearly flawed but are still fun. The most recent example I can think of is, if you remember the Jet Li movie from the early 90s. I think it's like Fists of Fury. It was really, really terribly dubbed, but the fight scenes were incredible and really fun, and like they kept you in the movie. But the dub was awful, man. Oh boy,
that's one of my favorite.
And like we could not get over the terrible, terrible dub of that movie, but it was a start to finish ride. It was a fucking romp. It was great. And so I kept it. That was a fun movie. I enjoy showing it to people for both of those reasons.
Yeah. But the other, version of that is like the great side of media when we've been swayed by a piece. I find that I would say often between us nowadays, it's probably like music, right? Like we share a lot of music back and forth. New albums come out and we're like all over it for each other. You don't have to listen to every song.
Certainly.
While we will listen to every song, it's good to know that like these 4 songs coming up are the bangers because they were the ones sent to me, you know. Or at least give every song a try. But
oh yeah, you've got to give the whole album a listen, because occasionally the album is in itself the media as well as just the songs.
Yeah, what you have like a massive media library. What is like your favorite piece to show people?
There's a lot of caveats to that, because a lot of it depends on what media they will be receptive to. A lot of our friends just don't respond to movies, just are turned off at the word film. Just have,
it's true.
You know, you can't pay attention that long. You can't pay attention that long. And so you can't, like, sort of cuts off an entire genre, which generally is the first genre that I'm interested in, because it's like the least time commitment and like it's a complete narrative. You show this to somebody, you get their vibe, you learn something about it, you have this experience together. But it's just like 2 hours, 3 hours, and a TV show is
season.
Longer, but also can be more rewarding, because with current age of TV, the TV shows dive deeper and it's more satisfying. So it really depends on like who the person is.
You said you jumped to
like there's also
film, like kind of right off the bat. What's like, is there a number one film? Not even your favorite film, but like maybe it is, but you know, like the film that you, or a film that you're like, this is a banger. If I get the opportunity, this is someone needs to see this movie or this film.
A banger.
It slips out still. I don't know.
I don't know about a banger, I'll say. But if I'm interested in someone's response to things, I want to show them something that will challenge them or make them think, and I want to see how they process that and what sorts of ideas they have. So I'll often go with Kill Your Darlings.
Okay.
With Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe is wild.
He's so fun. I mean, it's not a fun movie, but it is sort of a brain hurty kind of a movie where you are not sure where your feelings are at throughout the entire thing. You sort of have to process it afterwards and come to some sort of conclusion.
Roller coaster of emotions.
And the other one would be Ex Machina.
I did enjoy Ex Machina very much.
It's such a wild, strange movie, but it's so beautiful, and it's like really clean.
It's very like weighty in the mind. Like it makes you think a lot.
It has gravity.
Yeah. Very filled with gravitas. I like finding those TV series. I think like I've slowly become a person who is less into movies because my attention span is getting lower and lower, but I like finding those solid TV shows, because sharing the first few episodes of a TV show with someone, I think, is like non-committal. The only problem with a TV show is that like I feel like I'm almost never like entirely hooked until like episode X. What you know what that be, like 3 to 5 ish. You know, even with some of my favorite ones, like the first few episodes are weird as fuck, but like if you get past this, you can, you know, get the show.
I will usually give a TV series 2 or 3 episodes, unless it's either, I guess, really good or flagrantly awful. I don't know. I think the only thing that I disagree with is that like starting a TV show does feel committal, especially if you are showing it to somebody and you like consider it to be something that is worth seeing, because like the payoff for it is often not in the first few episodes.
No, certainly.
It's
a season finale.
It's in, you know, the plateau in the season finale, you know, 7, 8, 9 to 12. That's or whatever.
True. That's true. I guess I just mean that like you, like we don't have to sit down we don't have to have a 3 hour slot just to use that for a movie now, even though it's much longer than I guess most movies nowadays.
Well, even with a shorter movie, I could consider it a 3-hour slot because like we would be talking and like having like
Sure.
Generally when we have watched movies after the movie, regardless of its quality, we'll like at least take 20 minutes
breakdown section
and we just be like, all right, we know things about art, let's demonstrate that, and sort of how do we what different lenses can we look at this through and find something either of value or of intriguing critique by looking at it through these different lenses.
That is definitely another one of my favorite things about consuming media with other people, is that it's harder to break it down alone. Like, you can do it, but you can't get as deep alone, I think, because there's never a bouncing board. Like, I always come to a different conclusion about something in the movie when I am given a conversation about it. Be that maybe I like it more, maybe I like it less, maybe whatever that ends up being. I feel like I come to a different conclusion when I have the moment to.
Certainly, because every person that you talk to will have a slightly different perspective.
Yeah. And that's why I like, that's why I very much do enjoy that action of experiencing a piece of media together. Sometimes I'll stop on a show, like, you'd be looking, I want to see something new. And so you'll dig around in the confines of maybe your server or, Hulu, Netflix, wherever you find the show. Sometimes I'll stop after like 2 episodes because I'm like, this is a hit. And I need to see someone experience
this is good, and we have
these
to
first two, so that they can. I want to see what I've gone through, and then I want to see us do it together. Like, I want to get, it creeped me out. Is it going to creep you out? Are you going to like, are you going to be as blown away by I was at certain things? Are you, is this your vibe? I'll just like stop hard sometimes.
I definitely feel that. If I have the sense that it's going to be a banger, if that's what I have sort of heard in the zeitgeist, that this thing is solid, I will often wait on it. And so I just sort of have now a backlog of theoretically very good TV shows that I just have not watched.
I am very much the same way. Are there any things outside of maybe even media specifically that like you seek out to experience with friends?
It's an interesting question. It was one of the last things that I was thinking about putting onto my list of different medias.
The media of life.
The broad category that I sort of put it under was working on projects.
Yeah.
But like cooking together, to me, seems to be an experiencing the media of life, as you've so aptly put it. Cooking together, that whole process from like discovering a recipe or a video and like being excited about it to having the discussion of like, we could actually do this. It's just right down the street. We could go and get the shit and we could bring it back and it's this easy. And then like working it out and making it together and figuring out what sorts of things, because often it's not like an entire meal. It's just the one thing that you're excited about. And so you have to sort of, all right, well, what else is in the fridge? Or maybe you even catch it early and you're in the supermarket and you're like, what goes with this?
Right.
And throwing it all together and then hopefully putting it in front of people who did not make it and then being like, this is great. Or what?
What? Yeah, this is what we made. Getting to share it on multiple levels, right? Like you're
experiencing again both of those pillars of, the collaboration of experience and the voyeurism of experience is really the wrong.
I like the collaboration of experience. That sounded good.
Yeah, no, the collaboration is like the one pillar, but I'm like the viewing, the watching someone else have an experience.
I think it can fit under the collaboration of experience, right? Because like it's another portion to that experience. Someone else is pitching in to this experience by enjoying it. Like your portion of this experience right now is their enjoyment of it.
And so there's cooking. And that's about like median distance from media, but still feels like experiencing media. If you come a little bit closer to the media, I would say like working on theater is a non-viewing, a non-consumption experience
during
of media.
The working process.
I might even classify.
leading up to a consumption of media.
But not for you. Never for us. True. For them. And I think sort of the purest form of that for me is not actually like making theater. It's you remember when we were in history and literature of theater, and we were assigned many a play to read because we were theater majors and we had to brush up on our knowledge of theater. And often they were very hard to read with your eyes. You would just get caught somewhere in a monologue or in you'd forget who the characters are, or
a much harder read.
Yeah. It's just exhausting. And so we would gather in various people's living rooms and we would all just be like, all right, we're either going to pick characters or we're just going to go around the circle and every person gets the next line. And those were very different experiences, but both of them really gave you a much more crystallized sense of what the play was than just reading it with your eyes. And that felt like the clearest consumption of that thing, the same way that working on it might be. But then if you go further away from the media, an argument could be made that the experience that we have while we are on like jobs together is a experience it's a collaborative experience in media,
working in the physical pieces of media.
We are in the production of a live media experience.
That was I was gonna mention something about creating media and how like I have found so much joy in creating media, and there is, in trying to do it in the right way, there's so many different versions of creating that media, but some of it comes down to like, this is going to be a really fun thing to make with my friends and with my partner, like this, be it this video or like you and I working on, making a Pokemon game together. And, it's just, it's a blast when we sit down and we talk about it. It was a, blast before when we would sit down and like go through the computer portions and watch these long videos of people explaining how to like specifically code this, and like how to work in this is like a fun, it's a learning experience. It's like a huge thing that all kind of centers around like creating pieces of media, that I found a lot of joy in that.
Certainly. Yeah, I definitely enjoy the experience of creating media together, especially the brainstorming portion of it, the discussion. I will say I am less good at the actual work, but I do enjoy doing it. But I love the brainstorming and figuring out the scope and looking at it from all the different angles. And like, I have a tendency to overcomplicate, but that definitely stems from my love of discussion, of like finding more points about this and more ways to look at things, and all of those ideas is sort of what I find most exciting about Dungeons and Dragons as well. In its purest form, that is also storytelling collaboratively.
Yeah, I mean, that one is, I would say that D&D is a great version of experiencing media together with friends. Like, we have created this piece, and someone has created this piece, and we are about to experience the heck out of it as a team. And even though there is like a person who is like categorically off of the team being the DM, I think that like that is still, there's still experiencing that together. They're still like a part of the story. They're still,
I think that depends on the mindset of the players and the DM. Like, if you see yourselves on opposing sides, then you're going to be on opposing sides, true. And the DM is the person trying to tell a story, and the players are the person trying to mess with it, or the DM is the person trying to kill the players, and the players are just trying not to die. But you could also see it as telling a story together, either the players doing something wild and the DM being experienced and flexible enough to come along with them and be like, oh, okay, you want to seduce the statue. Okay. So there's, the teamwork of flexibility, or the teamwork of trust, of like the the players trusting the dungeon master to take them on a fun adventure and to like go along with their prompts, and the dungeon master trusting that whatever wild idea the players have, we're still going to follow this plot line, even if we do something over here for a minute.
Yeah, I think that's why I've probably had such a obsession spawn with Dungeons and Dragons since we started playing, is that like if you start playing, you cannot be alone. You know what I mean? Like in this moment, you have to be playing with other people. You cannot be playing D&D by yourself. While that's not always easy to start playing D&D or to start playing a tabletop role, RPG like this. Once you are doing it,
very easy to start. It's hard to play
consecutively. I mean, it is, but like starting requires a little bit more effort. But once you begin, like it is a collaborative storytelling experience, and even if people are not giving the same, like if everyone is not giving the same percentage to that story, it's still like a nice collaborative experience together. Absolutely, yeah. And when you were talking about cooking, very much looking forward. We have cookbooks on cookbooks I just have not like opened, but are like high-end cookbooks that I am looking forward to getting into, but just haven't had the opportunity.
I mean, I too have cookbooks on cookbooks, so it will be very interesting to see where those intersect and what different, because my cookbooks are very generalist. I don't have much in terms of specifics. I just cover a lot of bases.
I want to do some form of like content creation with cooking, be that like, we have like this old English recipe book that is like written in the oldest English I've ever read in my life, and it is very difficult to parse.
It is a reprint of the oldest cookbook in English.
Yeah.
Any form of English.
It is a wild cookbook, and I bought it when I was a little intoxicated. I was in my cups, and I thought that this would be very funny content, and I still do. So I'm
it's still funny content every time we open it up and read from it.
I'm super excited. I really want to do something, be that some form of like video or like live showing of attempting to cook from this wild cookbook.
I mean, I really do think that done correctly, the consumption of almost any kind of media is good content. Yeah. And I think that your diversification in that's going to be very interesting. I'm really excited to be a part of that and to prod you in various directions and provide whatever support I can in digging up content and finding different interesting things to do.
Do you have specific types of media that you share to specific people? You're like, this person does enjoy films. This is the person I share like my films to. These are the people I share my music to. Do you keep that on like an organized like situation? Like when you're I don't know, watching through or reading through, is it always an immediate share, or do you like start to create piles for various folks? Because some movies you can't just like, hey, go watch this, old movie that I have on my hard drive.
I don't collect piles for specific people. I just keep things that I think are worth sharing. And when I encounter someone that I think would appreciate having this shared with them, then I share it. Be that a book or a movie or an album or whatever. And then I have a much larger collection of things that I'm still trying to go through and parse and decide whether or
they
not
are of that caliber.
I want to share those things. I think the only thing that sort of is different from that is music, because I just sort of consume endless amounts of music in my day-to-day existence as a human, and there has been sort of a rotating cast of people who will get either every song that I find intriguing, which is so much, so that cast is almost nobody, and then specific songs that fit specific people's vibes I will shoot their way, and like different patches of good music I will shoot other people's ways. So like the sharing of music is much more immediate, because otherwise it will just get lost in the shuffle and I won't remember to do it.
Yeah. Do you think any of that stems from a joy of just collecting in general? Maybe not collecting in general, but like you do have these, like, you did specify you don't keep like piles of media for specific people. You got piles of media. They're not in
I do
piles.
keep. No, they're not for specific
but
people.
You got piles of media. You have like books,
piles of media. I have. There are over 10 U-Haul boxes taped shut in piles of U-Haul boxes full of books that I, at this point, only have vague notions of what books they are. I know that they're books that I collected or inherited, but beyond that, could be anything in there. It's wild. So excited. I'm sorry, I don't know that we quite got to the selection or the question.
No,
sorry.
It was just. I think it was. Do you think any of that stems from a joy of like collecting specifically?
Oh,
like sharing
yes.
your
okay.
collection, or is it about sharing this experience? Because you like avidly collect these things. I feel it's less than.
No, you are absolutely right. I love the sharing of the media, but like I do also find a lesser but existent amount of joy in just standing and looking at it. There are few things in the world more beautiful than a shelf full of hardcover books.
Especially if you know that they're all yours.
They are your hardcover books that you personally selected and purchased and brought back with you. I think it comes predominantly from upbringing. I think I get my love of collecting and also sharing media from my father. Just about every type of media, with the exception of role-playing games and podcasts. He was the first and usually greatest influence because he would read books to me. He would show me. We would have movie nights. We would back-to-back movie nights. We would like consume content. We didn't do a ton of TV, but I just didn't really enjoy the TV that he liked to show my sister. It's a lot of Joss Whedon and 90s serialized. It wasn't.
Not a
fan I wasn't
of
here
Joss
for
Whedon.
Not a huge. I mean, I love Firefly. Firefly's wonderful. The rest of it is a product of its time.
Lots of 90s media is for sure.
But we had expansive collections of most media. He had many CDs, both that he had purchased and that he had, in the early days of the internet, gone and found MP3s and acquired them and burned them onto CDs. We had like 6 volumes of Disney music that he had just been like, I'm gonna get some Disney music and put it on this CD, and now it's Disney Volume 2.
It's the songs that you want.
And there's it was what we listened to in the car. We had that, and we had Beatles, and we had Cake, and we had what is his name? The Banana Pancakes.
Oh, Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson, yes. And the Shrek soundtrack.
And the Shrek soundtrack. You got to share that with everyone you can.
Yeah.
You can't not experience the joy in sharing Shrek.
I mean, here's the thing, is that I feel like I don't have to share Shrek because everyone already knows.
Everyone's experienced Shrek, and if you haven't,
everyone's heard the word, and the word is
word
Shrek.
Of Shrek.
But he had these huge collections. We had tubs on tubs of VHS that slowly evolved into DVDs, and we had, the whole upstairs was bookshelves, either freestanding or like built into things, and they were all full of books, and there were stacks of books on the floor sometimes. And at some point, I don't actually remember when I started gathering books, because like for a long time in grade school, I was very much a library book kid, only from the library. My mom was very proud of me, but at some point in like middle or early high school, I decided that I actually wanted to start having them. And then my collection grew in college. And then after college, I actually started making money, and there was just no going back
They got
from
books.
that. I got books. I was making sort of adult money, and there was a half price books on the way home from work. The perfect storm to just go in there and be like, I had a great day, and drop $250 on books, and not even think a moment about it.
A little loop there, getting stuck and buying more books. I'm glad that I'm able to sort of leech off of everyone else's collections of things in order to satiate my habits. It's fantastic.
Well, here's the thing. That's what it's there for. I call it a library for a reason. It's, just don't destroy it and bring it back and it's fine. Like, even if you have to mail it to me, like, I'm not good. If I'm recommending it to you, I've probably already read it. So go nuts.
It's very interesting when you brought up very early on the definition of joy. I think that at no point, I don't know, in this process, did I look up the definition of joy, right?
I sort of saw that on your face when you were just like
that's really neat.
There.
No, I mean, I was like enjoying it because like that, I mean, while not using the literal definition at any point, I have been looking for, that vibe, that feeling, like what brings you that sense of joy. And I want to try to figure out, it's interesting because like, I think everyone, when I first ask them to come on, they're like, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. They come up with a topic, and then I ask for their small joy, and 2 out of the 3 times so far it has been, I would say, related to your overall joy, the thing that we're going to be speaking about in this moment. And like, it's funny because like you find that big joy when you're thinking about it, for sure, and then when you think back, it's like all these little moments of reaching that like big joy kind of come out throughout the day.
Well, certainly, yeah. You look at the definition, and then you look back at your life, and you look for those moments, and you're like, what's the thread? What's the thread that ties these moments together? And then once you've identified that, you see it everywhere. It's, the whole orientation of your life is sort of molded around how to experience these experiences the most often. At least very specifically for me, that's sort of the lesson to be learned from like self-identifying joy, is that like I'm always looking for a way to share media with people in under one of these listed categories. I don't really know where I was going with that.
You're just always looking for a way to like experience that, right? Whenever I'm listening to music, I would probably do it most during listening to music. I like am thinking about, if there's a new song that comes on, who is the person that like would enjoy this the most. I enjoy learning about people's tastes and like what they're going to enjoy, and then passing along some stuff. Sharing music used to be like my very favorite way of doing this. I always do it with television, but it comes with a feeling. It doesn't start, when I'm watching a new show. It just like at some point I'll be like, ooh, Gabe would really like this show, or like, I gotta show this to X or to Y. It comes at a certain point. But with music, like generally when I'm listening to any music that I have not heard, I start with the thought of like, all right, who is going to enjoy this the most?
The biggest one, honestly, for me, it's not quite that experience, but it's sort of in that vein, is when I am reading a book. It's sort of how would I deliver these words on the page so that the person listening to me is having at least a similar experience to what I am having reading them, which is not particularly a useful impulse to have, because it's not often that people want you to read books to them.
But every now and then,
occasionally.
Yes. Is there anything on your list that you had like noted that you're like, I want to talk about this in this act of sharing media that we haven't quite touched on?
I mean, we could dive into focused aspects of sharing media if we wanted to. I mean, I think the big thing that we never really covered was like we sort of brushed over it, but like the discussions you have and the communication and sort of trying to understand something together. I think the most focused media for that is generally like a podcast. Like the biggest sort of discussion moments that I have had have mostly been like on a road trip listening to podcasts and like they're discussing something and well, we also have thoughts about this, so we'll pause it and we'll try and parse through them and then we'll turn the podcast back on and then like 2 minutes later we'll turn it back off and then we'll be like, well, wait a minute, what? And talk
It's
some more.
very interesting because we do that in multiple ways, right? We either pause it and talk about their discussion points, like what are our thoughts on this discussion point, right? How do we see this? Because the podcasts are always, of course, from their point of view. So,
Mhm.
you know, what is our relation to this? Is this something we find, you know, fascination and interest in, things like that? But it's also, you know, fun. We listen to a lot of, you know, D&D podcasts we're out and about, and it's fun to pause and apply to our situation and be like, this is a very unique thing and we are working on a story in this, you know, form or fashion, and how can we apply this mechanic or this story point into what we're
Certainly.
doing. Always
No.
use this like a
It's an excellent storytelling narrative devices that are used or you know ways that the game master has described something or has worked something back in or the ease or lack of ease that they are having with different storytelling elements.
one of my favorite parts about experiencing different medias with people is the breakdown afterwards. It was I felt like we did it to 100% when we were in college, when we would like watch and experience this piece of media, and then we would go out to a large front porch and get a breath of fresh air and like sometimes just be silent for a little bit and like take it in, and then someone would say one thing and we would just kind of talk for, you know, an inordinate amount of time, be that large or small, about this experience we had just had, be it, you know, helping to come to terms with it or why it's bad, why it's good.
And also relating it back to the media that we were at the time creating or had recently been part of.
We like to relate a lot of stuff
You know,
to the theater shows that we were in.
Finding those connections was always interesting. I think I have to agree that the dissection of a piece of media is definitely a large amount of the fun that you can have with it if everyone is of that mindset to like dig deeper and not just be like it was good, it was bad. I liked, you know, Donald or whoever.
What did you like about Donald?
Why did you like Donald? What about this time when he was
not a likable person? What about that?
Not a likable person, yeah. What about when he pushed the old lady into the milkshake? Like what?
My brain harkens back to probably most recently that podcast that we've listened to several times now, and it's always just like the Seinfeld robot one.
That is like a clear example of like an exceptional thing that you hear it and you're like, I have to show this to people. People
is
need
not just about my own enjoyment of the situation.
This.
From now on, it is about other people's enjoyment because this is a wild time. For those of you that don't know what I'm speaking of, which should be everybody because I don't even know the name of it, is a fictional podcast about an AI being worked to do comedy by a less than enthusiastic engineer, and it is just a blast of a time watching this like AI comedian evolve through what the engineer is inputting, and it's just like kind of heavy and weighty at the end, but it's just a wild time, a very wild experience.
The name of the podcast is Imaginary Advice. I don't think the episodes are in any way sequential, but I don't know. This is the only episode of this that I've listened to. It was featured on another podcast. The title of the episode is Seinfeld.
Okay.
As an acronym.
Okay, SIE in. Okay, yeah.
With periods, yeah. And yeah, it's really good. I mean, exactly the story that M just told. It takes a minute to build. It's still very funny, but you think it's one thing, and then it like takes a really hard
Mm-hmm.
pivot 2/3 of the way into the podcast, and then it's something completely other, and you have an experience in that pivot that is worth viewing in other people and repeating to understand why you've had this experience and sort of parse it better, because like going back, and I've listened to it like 5 or 6 times now, it seems to be a reflection of the engineer's life and anxieties told through the the lens of this AI stand-up comedian, and the evolutions coincide with deeper and deeper self-examination on the part of the engineer, and sort of crystallizing what it is that it means to be a writer, to create, and how that relates to AI, and sort of how these ideas then change what the AI
Mm-hmm.
is doing. It's a marvelous example. Everyone should go and
It
listen to that podcast.
is. Yeah, I think when you were explaining it again, it kind of brought up a point I was trying, I think, to hit earlier, but I didn't know quite how to word it. And that is that like this pieces like this, these like huge kind of almost like cerebral pivots in pieces in like media pieces like this are like what I search for when I'm thinking of like sharing a piece of media when it comes to probably more television, honestly. What is like a milestone for media that you go out and share, like, you know, what makes a piece of media imminently shareable for you?
I mean, in the simplest terms, it has to make me feel something. I don't.
I guess then it's just about when you're trying to share that feeling, right?
Certainly, yeah. I don't like when I have a strong feeling. I almost immediately self-reflect on it, because I don't have them very often. So if a media has caused this, it's worth taking note of, and perhaps it will cause this same response in others. I think calling it a cerebral pivot is very apt, because those are like the most crystallized examples where like the whole frame of the thing
Mm-hmm.
shifts, and you're like, okay, this is quality content.
Making
You know,
my, I don't know, showing me something that I've never seen before is very hard to do, but when it's pulled off just right, I'm like, everyone has to see this thing. Because I feel like I've consumed a lot of media. I wouldn't say that I've consumed, much more than the average bear, but I've consumed a lot of media. And so when something hits me that I'm just like, I've never experienced before, be that a feeling, be that, I don't know, a new subject, which still comes up sometimes, I'm always like, this has to be shown. And that I feel like most often comes up with like, I'm trying to stray away from cerebral pivots, but just those huge sways in something where you're totally expecting one thing and they pull off flawlessly another outcome. Whenever I see that, I'm like immediately like, this is shareable, and who is it going to?
that's not quite how I see it, because I'm always sort of like, keep it or don't
Mm-hmm.
keep it, because it's sort of in the mind of a
Yeah, you do
collection.
have a large,
Um,
yeah.
I think sort of the fundamental difference there is, at least in my mind, that when you have that experience with someone, that sharing of the media experience, that's not just sitting next to each other and watching something, but is pausing it and talking about it, or having conversations while it's going because you just gotta, or talking afterwards. Like, each time you do that with somebody, it is a new experience of the media that you can find joy in, even if the media itself is not quality.
That's true.
And sometimes, especially if it's not quality. That's why I enjoy a comprehensive media journey, because even if it's not quality, it's like worth discussing if you have someone to discuss it with. Like if I could clone myself, I would sit with my clone and we would watch things and we would talk about them, and that's basically all that I would do until I died. You know, I'm always sort of looking for that experience, because things are fun when you talk about them with other people.
When you break them down and get to the root of what you're thinking about there.
To sort of bring it back to the lens of video games, to me, the most fun kind of way to experience a video game is with another person, either playing or spectating. Like that, at that point, doesn't really matter, because you're both experiencing the video game together. Even if the game itself is clunky or flawed, you are having a good time trying to either you're having a good time enjoying an experience from the game, or you're having a good time trying to throttle the game into giving you a good experience with a friend.
Two different experiences, but both equally as enjoyable.
It's having the experience that is enjoyable. That's just there's many different ways you can have that experience if you have an open mind to the fact that the experience is the thing that you're here for, rather than the content.
Yeah.
The content might be good, but if you have your eyes open to the experience can always be good.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I mean, it is all about definitely your approach.
I given company am attempting to share. Yes. It doesn't matter if the thing is nonsense.
The sharing of an experience, for sure. No, I like looking at it that way. It's not always even about the active experiencing of this thing. It's about the action of experiencing this thing, right? I did feel like we missed out on a little bit of discussing that, so I'm glad that we went back.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely gave us an opportunity to get closer to the heart of the experience of media.
What do you think? I mean, what do you think that is? If we're closer to the heart of experiencing media, what do you think that, like, maybe the root of all of that, all of this kind of trickles back to? Are we talking like maybe the PureJoy is more about sharing in general?
I think you could definitely abstract it to that place. You could definitely take another step back and say it is sharing an experience. You could say it is having a conversation, having something to talk about, a shared experience that facilitates dialogue, even if the dialogue goes places that weren't suggested by the initial topic. You've started a conversation, and the conversation is sometimes the whole point.
All right. Well, okay. I like this. I like this topic. I like that it was differentiated from, last episode's topic. When you had first brought it up, I was like, oh no, media again. But it wasn't, I could even tell, like, when you had first given me your thing, that it wasn't about media specifically, right? It wasn't about, like, I love movies, I love games. It was about, it's the experience of experiencing these things that is bringing the joy. They could be bad. They could not be something that I'll play again or watch again or do again, outside of the looking for a bad experience, because sometimes you're looking for a bad experience. Well, great. I think that this has been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate you coming in and sharing with us today.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Well, I'm going to close up here and get to editing, but I appreciate you coming by and being on with us.
Certainly. It's been a blast. It's been good talking with you. I wasn't totally sure coming into it if my topic was going to supply enough content, but here we are, and I'm glad I picked it.
And overall, there might be about half an hour sliced out, but that leaves us with still probably the longest episode yet, so that's great.
Oh yeah.
I think it comes. We just chat. I think everyone's a little nervous when they're like, oh no, I'm supplying the content for the thing, and it's like it's less like a lesson plan and more just like a conversation starter. Which I think we've done well.
So long as you've got notes, you will have no problems.
All right. Well, there's a tip for anyone in the future. Notes, no problems. Easy. Well, thanks for coming on, my friend, and I will talk to you soon.
Absolute pleasure. See you around, friend.
Great. We're back. Do a little close up. It has been fantastic having you folks in on this episode of the PureJoy Podcast. This was our 3rd episode. That was our guest, Gabe Stringer. We talked a lot about a lot of different content tonight. We talked about the experiencing of that content together. That experience is a powerful experience. You can get more out of having, these breakdown discussions and enjoying the things you enjoy with the people that you enjoy. You can also get less. Like, you can get more by doing these things yourself, but you can these experiences can be a very enjoyable time. And as we saw with our guest today, he finds his joy in them. His small joy was even sharing music. He talked about sharing that song with me and stuff. So make sure that you keep an eye out. In about a week, this Sunday, this will go up live on YouTube, on Spotify, and on Apple. You will be able to listen to it there, see it there, check out the edits. And yeah, our next guest will be our dear friend M. We don't have their topic yet. We'll actually find out what their topic is a week before. So next Sunday when we're posting it, we'll find out their topic. We'll let you folks know next time when we start. And I really appreciate you folks for joining. This has been an incredible journey so far, an incredible 3rd episode. And I look forward to the rest of it with you folks. Again, this has been the PureJoy Podcast, and we'll see you next time, folks.